Hey, yo, what's up, YouTube? Man, it's your boy, Action Jackson, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the Dallas Cowboys versus Carolina Panthers preview game. So before we jump into the video, I would appreciate if you guys would like the video, subscribe if you're new, comment, and share my video with anyone who you think will enjoy my content. So the Dallas Cowboys are going to be without some of their key starters like Tyler Booker, CeeDee Lamb, Jack Sanborn, Miles Sanders, and Kavontae Turpin. Deron Bland, Trayvon Diggs, Marshawn Kneeland, and Tyler Smith are all going to be questionable in the game on Sunday. But for the Carolina Panthers, their injury report, they're going to be without their star running back, Chuba Hubbard, and they're going to be without their starting right tackle, Taylor Moton. So that's about it, really, for the injury report list. Really, the Dallas Cowboys, more than likely, everybody that's on the injury report list in terms that's out, like Booker, CeeDee Lamb, Sanborn, Turpin, you're going to have those guys next week versus Washington. So the number one way in which that we can win this game is we got to start fast, man. When this team is down and you're consistently applying pressure on this team, they will eventually fold. If you look at what they did, if you look at that Arizona game, when Arizona kept putting their foot on the gas, it was over for them. Yeah, they had a chance late to win the game, but they couldn't. New England didn't even put the game in arm's reach, didn't even put the game in at all. It was over. Blowout. They beat them down. When you look at that Jaguars game, the Jaguars beat the brakes off them 26-10, even with that weather delay. You know, the Panthers beat them. The Patriots beat the Panthers by 30 points, 29 points, 42-13. So, I mean, when this team is down and you keep putting points on them, like, it's not that tough to really put points on them. We're going to be just fine from an offensive standpoint, but the main thing we've been worried about on this team so far has been the defense. Mainly, if the offense and the defense both start off fast, we're going to be just fine in this game, and I'm not really too worried about this team. And then, number two, make sure you're putting your hands up when you can't get home versus Bryce Young. Again, this pass rush is going to show me something for me to be like, okay, we're going to be able to get home on Bryce Young. If we had a certain person in here, I wouldn't really trip about it. Or if we had Dominez Raku or Sam Williams, one of these guys who was able to step up in place of the guy not being here anymore, then I feel a little bit more confident with a guy like Taylor Moton being out. But if we're not able to get home, put your hands up. Bryce Young's 5'10", 5'11". He's not that tall in stature. Put your hands up. He can hardly see over the offensive line anyway. Put your hands up and make sure that we're containing the pocket as well. Because Bryce Young, no, he's not that dynamic with his legs, but when he does escape the pocket, he can potentially hurt you. But Bryce Young hasn't been the same since Bama. But that's because if you really look at the situation, you know why Bryce Young hasn't been that type of guy that you saw him, right? And then also play physical with these wide receivers. I understand that Deron Bland, Trayvon Diggs are dealing with some sort of injuries, but this is the type of game where I feel more confident with a guy like Trayvon Diggs, because Trayvon Diggs he does better versus those bigger wide receivers who have a tough time separating. Mike Evans, even though he's a Hall of Famer, when Trayvon Diggs is healthy, he keeps up with Mike Evans, right? That was back in his prime, right? Hell, even the first week, I know Jalen Hurts can't throw the football, but Trayvon Diggs did his thing against A.J. Brown. But a lot of the defenses and defensive backs, it'll look like they're doing their thing versus those Philadelphia wide receivers. So we'll talk about that later. And then, basically, the Carolina Panthers offense is not all that. Yes, they have names. They have names that you know, but their names haven't really been popping. So, Hunter Renfrow is the name that we all know, right? Since Clemson. He hasn't been popping, showing anything like that. Their offense is very vanilla. They're not a high motion team. They're not a team that puts up a lot of points. They have a few outliers. Yeah, beating the Falcons 30-0, putting up 22 versus Cardinals. But again, like I said, that was late. Yes, they had their biggest win on the season so far came against the Dolphins, but the Dolphins should have won that game. If you watch that game, the Dolphins should have won that game. So again, I'm not too concerned about their team necessarily. You know what I mean? T-Mac is the only person. Tedero McMillan is the only one that is really fearful on that wide receiver side, that if Bryce Young does have a way, and if he has his day, he has his day. But The only way that they're going to have that type of day offensively is through either the run game, which we cannot allow because we've been really bad against the run. Everyone thought it was because of a certain defender that is no longer here. But if you look at our past 2 games, we allowed 164 to Green Bay and we allowed 144 to the Jets. And most of those Jets runs were against Breece Hall. It wasn't like Justin Fields was out there running all over the place, because he wasn't. So that's another thing. We have to stop the run. We've been crappy in the past 2 weeks in terms of stopping the run. And then offensively, man, like I said, just put pressure on them. They have a tough time getting home. They're just like you in a way where, you know, your pass rush has started to pick it up in the past 2 weeks. Again, just in the first half when it came against Green Bay. But your best pass rushing game was last week versus the New York Jets. So I felt like if you replicate that same pass rush and you bring it over into this game, I think you're going to be just fine. But offensively, like I said, just put pressure on them. We're going to be fine. Run the ball, control time possession, keep the ball out of their hands, keep them on the sidelines. We're going to be just fine. Making sure that George Pickens and all the playmakers that we do have, like Ryan Flournoy, Jake Ferguson, Javonte Williams, Jaden Blue, making sure that those guys are getting the ball early and often in this game, again, to put this game out of reach. Protect the ball. You don't want to give the Carolina Panthers short fields. Even though, yes, I'm not scared of their offense, you just don't want to do that for an NFL team and even do that to your defense, as you already know has been lackluster and just has been, they've been tough. It's been really tough for them to get going, right? Limit the controllable penalties. That's offsides. Last but not least, let's try and stay healthy. That's easier said than done. It's the NFL. Things happen. Again, they're moving at abnormal paces on those fields, turf at that. So, again, overall, my feelings, I think we're going to be just fine versus the Carolina Panthers. What they've been showing on tape and what they've been showing just on the TV copy when you're watching these games, the Carolina Panthers, man, they don't impress you enough from an offensive standpoint or a defensive standpoint to really put fear in you. Again, Bryce Young has been a shell of himself. He hasn't been the type of Bryce Young I thought he was going to be coming into the league. And, you know, their offense just isn't really all that great. I understand we've been hearing things from Rico, but Rico's an undrafted guy. You know what I mean? Think of any undrafted player in the league, whether that's Antonio Gates, Ryan Clark is another one. We've been hearing so many undrafted guys that once they make it to the promise center, they make it on the NFL roster and been in the league for 10 plus years, those guys, or if they just been in the league more than a few years, they always gonna have that chip on their shoulder. So I'm not really concerned about what Rico Dowdle had said. So, you know, let him. I'm gonna allow him to talk his stuff. You know, 200 yards in a game. Yeah, I mean, how many running backs can really say they've done that in the course of a game? There's only a few, not a few, but there's at least 10, 15 backs probably that has ever done it in the NFL history to run for 200 yards. So for his name to be up there, that's really good. You know, but I'm not really concerned about what he said. Again, like, I had no problems when Rico was here. I really wish he could have stayed for another year, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? But I feel like with the Dallas Cowboys getting the win, getting back in the win column again, and making it a winning streak and going on a 2-game winning streak, and to improve your record to 3-2-1, and then you have a chance to even possibly jump up in the standings and jump up within the NFC East race. If you get a win this week and potentially when you get all your guys back next week, with the way that this offense has been moving, getting guys like Tyler Booker, CeeDee Lamb, that will very much help you going into the course of next week when you have to play your division rival. So again, that's about it for the video. Hopefully you guys have a nice day. Stay safe, stay blessed. Bye.